Okay, so this one is going to be about a kind of weird, but a unique campaign finale that penultimate finale? Session that I was part of. So, one of the players in our Monday game that started as a Curse of Strahd game, he, at the same time, more or less, has been running his own Curse of Strahd game. And in that, he decided to use all of our characters from the Monday game as NPCs. Turn off the AC. Don't need it right now. And so, for the kind of penultimate session, he had this big fight between the party and our characters, more or less. And all these... So he brought us all in, and it was a big, 12-player, basically, combat, where there's 12 characters and 12 players. So it was a big rotation of shit going on. And I just want to kind of go over it a little bit, and some lessons we can learn from it. This car go. Escargot. So one of the main things about this other party is, for a lot of them, this is like their first D&D game. It's been running for a little while, so they should have some experience now. But this was their first foray into it for a few of them. And one of the DM's concerns, and by extension our concerns, was that they aren't super great at combat teamwork. Most of their characters are kind of just designed to do damage and not a whole lot else. So one of the big things he wanted to do was use our party and our characters and our experience as more experienced players to kind of show them what a group working together looks like. And it kind of went about as well as I expected. There was clearly no way they were going to win, but narrative reasons, all the characters got turned into mist. But more or less, to sum up, the protagonistic party, I'm going to say, they didn't have really a whole lot of teamwork. They didn't have target priorities, or they didn't prioritize different targets outside of our warlock, because apparently they were just very afraid of our warlock. And the reason behind this was the warlock is an arcane caster. They're technically an occult caster, but they were just very concerned with the concept of a caster, more or less. So their highest damage character, a Echo Knight rogue barbarian multi-class with lycanthropy and extra attacks per round, made a beeline straight for the warlock and used all their resources, action surge, to unleash incarnation charges to just barely take down the warlock in one turn, after they spent a turn rolling ones. That's how that goes. But the only reason this worked is because the warlock forgot they had a Tomb of Levistus. But we're not the main party. We're not the stars of this show, so we're not going to fight that hard. I forgot I had this feature that would totally changed everything. Oh well. So he got his little moment where he took down the warlock in one turn, but then he didn't have any more of those resources left. But while that was happening, the rest of the group started tearing down the rest of the party's HP and resources. I destroyed the Artificer Steel Defender in one turn. Their rogue, who can pop in and out of the ethereal plane, they popped out, got 2 crits on the on our ranger, and only took her down to like not even half HP. So, and then as a result triggered her like big special beast companion to turn into a bigger beast companion. So not great for them. We took down the other fighter, the Battlemaster fighter, who has some sort of like is like a half shadow. So they were immune to necrotic but vulnerable to radiant, which meant when I attacked them, they ignored my necrotic damage, but all the radiant was doubled, and I do more radiant damage. So they went down pretty quick. Then we were starting to work on the paladin, and I would have taken them down, but I decided on my last turn to play the flute instead because it was funny. So like, really, there was no target prioritization. There was like, the other thing about this game is they run flanking rules, and they didn't try to utilize flanking rules at all. Like, we started to use them, so it's like, okay, cool, get some flanking going, and I don't know, but you know, that's kind of par for the course of a lot of parties. A lot of tables aren't going to engage with everything they can. For example, they missed a lot of story beats that they could have sunk their teeth into. Like, for example, that Battlemaster with Shadow, that's like a half shadow. My character trained him at one point, and he never said anything to me. He never said anything to my character. He didn't really say anything when he went down. In fact, the only thing he said when he went down is, "Oh, I get to go to bed early." That doesn't sit right with me, because, like, that's just kind of a shitty thing to say as a player. Like, "Oh, cool, I get to leave and not participate in this anymore. I get to go do something else." No, that's fucked up. Like, maybe say it once as a joke, I can get that, but he said it several times. To me, that's just like, okay, I'm not putting any work into your character and your engagement anymore, because you're clearly not engaged. Even after I give you all these story ties and all these things that you can sink your teeth into, and you decide you'd rather be asleep. You know, I don't like that. But that's neither here nor there. That character went down. When that character went down, the other characters didn't really comment on it either. They're just like, "Oh, anyway." And then after that, that lycanthrope, after they took down the warlock, they just started to make their way back over, and they didn't make any comments about, like, you know, the strength of the rest of the group, partially because they didn't get to engage with the strength of the 2 barbarians that he was going to have to fight, that do an average of 70 damage a turn each. So, you know, but neither here nor there. That character was just kind of unnecessarily confident in what they were going to do. They're just like, "I do 1,000,000 damage, so everything's going to be fine." You know, and that's also kind of not really interesting. Another story beat they missed was a very important character early in the campaign, which was played by a player originally. Then they decided they wanted to do something else. So they found that character beheaded with a scythe. You know, like on the ground, their heads separated and a scythe sticking in the ground. Now, my character is a scythe-wielding executioner, so at the time they assumed it was me. They never said anything about that either. Some of the characters dug into the more personal connections they had, like I don't know what class they were, but they had they used some kind of bow or crossbow. I think it was a longbow, actually. So maybe they were a ranger, but they were like a half vampire, and they brought a head back to Strahd, So they spent a turn kind of like talking about that to Strahd. So, they're going to engage with their own personal storylines. But there really wasn't a whole lot of like group storylines going back and forth. The party really didn't talk to each other, and they barely talked to us. So I was like, And then also, like, some other points in, like, before this combat, we engaged in a little bit of shit talking in the Discord, like, and it was in character shit talking. The antagonistic party has been around in this situation for thousands of years. They've seen hundreds of parties of adventurers come and go, challenge them over and over, and fall every time. So why is this going to be any different? Prove it to us that you're strong enough by killing us. Please give us something interesting. But they barely engaged with that. And from what the DM told me about their chatter in their group chat, they were legitimately afraid for some reason. Like, first of all, this is a game. Like, we're not going to come to your house and stab you. And we're not being malicious. We're speaking in character, like just the way an NPC would be talking to you. Like this is supposed to be banter. But if you're not going to engage with it, you're not going to engage with it. I guess that's fine. But it's whatever. If you want to be scared, you want to be scared. But yeah, more or less, like I said, the combat went kind of about as well as we expected. One of the players was down. Another player was almost down, and they had lost their steel defender companion. The rogue was taking tons of damage. And me and the other barbarian, we still had over 200 hit points left. And they had been swinging on us to a decent degree. And they just hadn't cracked us much at all. So even if it was just down to the two barbarians, like if they killed everybody else, the two barbarians would have been able to take out this party by themselves. It's ridiculous. So I don't know, maybe there's something in that, mostly because PvP isn't particularly balanced. If you're just looking at martials, paladins, barbarians, and fighters tend to have a big advantage for a lot of reasons. Paladins can just put out so much damage. Barbarians can resist so much of the damage that player characters, particularly martials, depend upon. And fighters having access to action surge can just do so much burst damage. It's hard for other characters to compete with it. Monks are a little ridiculous in PvP just because of Stunning Strike and how powerful that really is, especially against other players. If that player has Constitution saving throw proficiency, it's not going to be so bad, but if they don't, they're getting stunned. It is not difficult to stun a player, and that is it's really strong, and it's a really bad play experience if you're just stunning the shit out of a bunch of player characters. It's simply not balanced. It's not designed with PvP in mind, and that's fine, because that's not the point. I think that's most of what I have to say on this topic. Maybe I'll record another video on similar topics, but I think ultimately, if we were going to run something like this again, it would simply be better to have these characters as highly tailored stat blocks. And something I do for my SCP game, which I started up recently, so I got to do my first campaign diary for the new version of the game, is I take all the players HP, their AC, and their average damage output with and without resources into account. And I design monsters and challenges with that in mind. For example, for the previous party, their average damage was like 25 without resources. Like, a single character could roughly put out 20 to 25 damage per round if they all hit and blah blah blah. So I gave my monsters 30 HP per round. So on average, a single monster, if it was only attacked by a single player, would generally survive at least one round. They could spend resources to burn them down faster, but that's kind of the point. Like, in 5e, you design encounters to burn resources. And I feel like that kind of goal, like, you throw a bunch of monsters out and you want them to survive at least one round to get a turn off. That keeps combat snappy while still draining resources, whether it's HP, spell slots, special ammo, class features, whatever. It's still going to drain something. But I'll talk about that in another video. That's all I got for you today. Have a good day.